The Democrats are very excited right now because Gavin Newsom is out there trolling Donald Trump. However, the underlying problems of the Democrat Party and Gavin Newsom still exist, meaning there is no message, there is no plan, and there is no policy that the American people actually like coming from that side of the aisle. And this, of course, is going to be pointed out in epic fashion over in the All In podcast with Chamath and David Sachs completely roasting Jason Calacanis. But before we get these clips, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment on this video so we can get through the algorithms. Here we go.
You're seeing Democrats react positively to what Newsom is doing. And what Newsom is doing is mirroring Trump's style in an attempt to again, give Democrats what they want, which is they want a Trump of their own. And despite Democrats feigning objections to Trump's style, that this is really what they want, is they want someone who they perceive to be a fighter.
The practical choice that the Democratic voters will have is to actually ask whether they want a replay of California on an American 50-state scale. And if you look at it through that lens, I think Gavin Newsom is going to have a very difficult path because of what has transpired over his tenure as the governor. And he's going to have to explain away a lot. I think for the Republican side, the best outcome is a very radical agenda that isn't really supported by substantive facts and is more supported by vibes. This is what I feel. I just feel it should be right. And I think that those things may win a primary, but will just get destroyed in a federal election. What about you, the world's greatest moderate? What do you think?
If I was advising the Democrats, I would smash the Republicans where they don't speak up about important issues to the American voter: housing, wages, education, and healthcare. These are things you never hear Trump talk about. You never hear JD talking about these. And I think that that's the way to, if they want to beat MAGA,
they talk about them all the time.
It's way down the bottom of the list. No, they don't. When's the last time? Okay, so tell me, Chamath, what is the proposal?
Real wages went up significantly in Trump's first term, and then they started stagnating again under Biden. And that's the whole purpose of his trade policy, is to encourage reshoring of manufacturing in the United States.
He passed a huge tax bill that locked in all these gains, no tax on tips. So you can debate the impact to the broad population, but there are enough examples where actual take-home wages are higher than what they would be in a counterfactual.
Yeah, and by the way, Gavin Newsom has a supermajority in the California legislature. He can run the state however he wants. He also has a very compliant court that will rubber stamp his decisions. Completely different than Trump, who has a very narrow majority, and he has a court that basically tries to stop everything he does. So Gavin Newsom can run the state. He could be operating the state for the benefit of its citizens instead of holding all these performative press conferences and doing podcasts and tweeting all day. So where is the program that you're talking about? It doesn't exist.
It's a fine criticism, but I'm talking about the Democrats as a group. If the Democrats came out and just said, we're going to add $1 to the federal minimum wage every year for the 8 years we're in office, that would fly with the American public.
That doesn't actually sustain. That's not a strategy.
Sure, you can make that argument. I'm just telling you what the winning argument is. The winning argument is,
well, no, you're just saying whatever it takes to get elected. But giving stuff away is not how adults make hard decisions.
You mean like giving people no tax on their overtime and no tax on their tips? Those kind of giveaways, Chamath?
No, those are very popular. That's helping middle class and working class.
I don't disagree, but to the point of giving away free stuff doesn't work, it actually does. It does get people out to vote. People were very motivated when they heard those proposals by Trump. I'm saying they should just take that proposal and 10x it. That's the way to win. I'm not saying it makes sense. I'm not saying I'm endorsing it. I'm just giving you the playbook.
Okay, well, what I would do to fight your playbook of empty promises is I would actually talk about the record of the candidate.
Exactly.
And I think we're talking about a state like California, which is thoroughly blue and has been run by Democrats now for a long time. And Gavin probably will be the nominee because I do think that his performative antics are working with the base. I mean, they want an anti-Trump. But the way to attack this is to talk about the record here. So let's just go through some of the numbers. So as we all know, we pay the highest taxes in the country for the worst public services. Gavin's spending turned a $75 billion surplus into a $20 billion deficit in just a couple of years. And somehow none of that money went to fill the reservoirs or fire hydrants. And so we had entire neighborhoods burned down as a result, and they can't get permits to rebuild. California has the fourth largest economy in the world, so that's good. But we have the highest rates of poverty, homelessness, inequality, illiteracy, and wage stagnation. So yes, wage stagnation, JCal, is the highest in the country. And we have the third highest unemployment among the 50 states. We're second only to Hawaii in housing costs. So you want to talk about making promises to lower housing costs. But if you look at blue states like California, they're among the worst. We're the worst in energy costs. And we have the highest rate of both retail crime and frivolous lawsuits. And that's why businesses are moving out of the state. You may have seen that Bed Bath & Beyond said that even as they're opening 300 more physical stores, they're not going to return to California. And this just got the CEO mocked by Newsom because he never actually takes any of the criticism to heart. He just sort of deflects it. So until the Democrats, I think, confront why they really lost, okay? And it's not just because of the style of Trump. They want to just attribute it to Trump's style. But the reality is it's because of the policies, and it's
policies,
about, and it's about the record. And until they're willing to confront those things and change their policies, then I think they're going to continue losing.
So there was some really good stuff there being said by David Sachs. However, there was one issue that they didn't really push back on Jason Calacanis on. And that's when Jason Calacanis said, Trump is offering free stuff by saying, hey, we're not going to do tax on tips, etc. No, that's not free stuff. That is people's hard-earned money. And for Trump to come out and say, we're not going to tax you on that, we're not going to have the government take away from you what you earned, that is not a giveaway. All right, that is not a handout. That is someone keeping the money they worked hard for, keeping the money they actually earned. It's a completely different ballgame, all right? But Donald Trump came out and did it, and the American people loved that idea. Hold on, you mean I get to keep more of what I worked hard for? That's a great policy. And of course, it flies completely in the face of the Democrats' policies of free handouts for everybody who isn't working, who isn't doing anything, who isn't contributing to this nation. But let's go back to the beginning, all right? You have David Sachs saying that, hey, the Democrats, even though they talk all this crap about Donald Trump, he's boorish, he's ill-mannered, he's mean, they just want their own version of Donald Trump, right? And that's why Gavin Newsom is having such success with this little campaign he's running right now, because the Democrats really just want a fighter, exactly like the Republicans did when Donald Trump first came down that golden escalator. We wanted someone to stand up for us, okay? But of course, the problem is all of the policies the Democrats actually want fly in the face of what the American people actually want. And this, of course, is on complete display by Gavin Newsom in California right now, okay? And Chamath makes the great point that, well, what's going to be on the ballot, right? California. Do you want California across the entire nation right now? And of course, no. One of the biggest fears that I believe people have in middle America is that you're going to wake up one day and your town will be like California. You're going to go to your convenience store and everything's going to be locked up because theft is rampant, right? You're going to try and use your public services and you're going to get attacked or robbed or murdered, right? Because that's exactly what's happening in California right now. And then, of course, also nothing's going to happen to the criminals, to the people who are taking advantage of the system, because it's not going to be politically correct. That is one of the biggest fears of middle America. And we definitely don't want that. And that, of course, is why Gavin Newsom is going to have a very hard time, as was also pointed out by David Sachs, because right now Gavin Newsom has all the power in California, right? It's completely Democrat run. But what do they do with that power? They don't try to help their citizens. No, they try to give free handouts to illegals. They try to allow homeless people to just continue doing drugs and defecating in the streets, all right? They don't actually want to fix any problems. And when Jason Calacanis tries to come out there and say Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, they're not addressing any of the issues that Americans really care about, right? It's quickly pointed out that, hey, we just passed this big giant tax bill that actually helped middle-class Americans, that made tax cuts permanent for lower income people, okay? That sounds like a big boon. And not to mention, you had real wages rising under Donald Trump. That's something that did not happen under Joe Biden, okay? And when you think about housing of all things, guess what would really help the housing market? How about getting rid of 20 million illegal immigrants that shouldn't be in this country that are competing for housing right now? And how about putting under review another 50 million visa holders who might be violating violating their visa stays. All right. That sounds like a pretty darn good start to me. And as far as college goes, Donald Trump is going after those institutions for not allowing people in who deserve a spot, right? Getting rid of the DEI, getting rid of all of this wokeness, right? That's what he's fighting against right now. But of course, a lot of average everyday Americans are turning away from college in droves simply because they know it is too expensive. But of course, that's something else that's caused by the whole government college interaction and how all of these government grants actually drive up the cost of university. All right. But what it all boils down to is this: the Democrats don't have a positive message right now. They're just attacking Donald Trump. And guess what? That has not worked in the past, and it's not going to work in the future. And speaking of future, Gavin Newsom's does not look so bright because he has a definite record that he will have to run on, that he cannot get away from, because we're not going to let him. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and say hi to your mom for me. Do you like t-shirts? Of course you do. And now you can support the channel by buying an Angry Teacher t-shirt designed by me, Angry Teacher. So if you like America, if you like freedom, if you like liberty, then go ahead and click the link in the description, where all designs, of course, are 100% mother approved. So enjoy yourself and find something you like today.